This is the Apex Adjustable Bench by the Tib Bar Guy. And if you watch my recent review, you know that there's a lot of things to like about this bench. But probably one of the coolest things to like about this bench has nothing to do with what's on it right now. It's what you can attach to it. And that's what we're gonna look at today, the 10 attachments that are made for the Apex Adjustable Bench. Welcome back to the GymCrafter YouTube channel, everybody. My name is Tim. I'm the head gym nerd here at GymCrafter.com, the website that I built to help ordinary folks like you and I build home and garage gyms that we absolutely love. And apparently these days, part of building a home gym that you absolutely love is having a bench with stuff that you can plug into it, especially a leg developer. So today we're gonna go over all the cool things that you can attach to this Apex bench. And I figured I'd start with probably what's gonna be the most popular one and the one that gets the most buzz these days, a leg developer. You're seeing lots of people do this. You see the Freak Athlete Hyper Pro has a leg developer. Their new bench, the ABX, does. The first real decent attachment that's gonna come out for the Rep benches with an accessory port is a leg developer. You've got the Dialed Motion partnership with Rep. It's kind of a big deal. So this is not only the one that a lot of people are gonna want, but this is the one that you have to get right. I just made a video, and check it out, I'll link it down below, on how to pick out a leg developer, all of the things that you want to look for in a leg developer. And I want to go through this particular one by the Tib Bar Guy as part of their Apex line to show you really what a great job that they've done. So when you look at this piece, when it attaches into, now, for those of you who haven't watched the bench review, there are 3 accessory ports here on the Apex bench. So this is going to plug into the accessory port here on the back. The way that it attaches is you lift the seat to about 15 degrees right here, and then you have to lift this up and install it in the port and then tighten it down. One of the things I wish was different right off the top is this is a 50-pound accessory. So because you have to lift it up to slide it in, it is a little bit difficult, especially for people who may have issues with that weight, whereas some of them, like the Rep, has wheels that you can just roll it and push it in, so that's a little bit of an easier installation. This does have wheels to move it around because it is kind of heavy. You've got a couple of handles here that you not only use to hang on to while you're doing leg extensions, but that's gonna help you, give you something to roll this around with. But the one I wish I have on this, there's really 2 I wishes, but one of them is that it was a little bit easier to put on. But once you have it on, this thing is awesome. All you gotta do is lift it up, and it sets right on the floor, super stable and ready to go. So let's kind of look around this and look at a couple things that I really, really like about this. First of all, there are a couple of touches on this that are shared with my ATX leg developer back home in my gym. So as you guys know, if you watch the channel, I got a really nice standalone ATX leg developer. ATX is known for lots of cool details. There's a couple of them on this. The first one is, if you look at this and how I'm gonna be able to lift it up, this allows me to lift this up and down really, really easily, because there's this pin right here which locks the leg developer in place. It's just a little thoughtful thing. It stores down underneath in one of the other holes, gets out of the way, but that's a really cool thing. The second one is this is set up with band pegs down below on both sides, and the way that the band pegs are set is they're actually rollers that the bands attach to the weight post itself, kind of go around and then wrap around. What that does is it allows you to have band tension throughout the movement without having any slack in the band that lets it come off. It's another thing that you see pretty much only on ATX stuff, but it's on this guy right here. So I really, really like those 2 thoughtful touches. They're just little detail type things. The second thing is, I really like these pads that you sit on. They're nice and wide, they're an afterthought. Sometimes what you'll see is, you'll see like on the Iron Master, they're just leg rollers, and they do fit under your knees, but they're not the most comfortable. I like that these are flat. They're out wider than the bench itself. So what that allows you to do is, somebody like myself, who is a little bit bigger, I can actually sit on this and be comfortably supported on my legs. Once I get in here for the leg extension, another thing I really like is I can't bottom out on this. So the stretch that you get from this is way better than most other leg developers. Even some standalones that I've been in don't give me this much stretch. So I was really happy when I got on this to see how much stretch this gives me and how far under my legs can go. Like, I literally, there's the bottom. If I really lean on it, even with weights on the weight horns, it doesn't push me back all the way, which I like a lot. Now, as far as loading goes in these weight horns, another nice thing about this, if you see this angle here, so if you're gonna do this plate loaded, this says plate or cable attached. So if you're gonna do this plate loaded, the way that this is angled out, what that does is that allows you to have some resistance at the bottom of the movement. The weight curve on this, or the strength curve on this, feels really, really good. It's pretty consistent throughout. If you look at, for example, the ABX by Freak Athlete, that post kind of sticks down about half of the angle. So one of the pieces of feedback you see on that is that there's not a lot of weight at the bottom of the movement. With this, because it's angled out further, I really like that you get a good amount of weight throughout the movement. So that's really nice. Another nice thing is you can see that the weight posts are side mounted instead of on the top. That gives you a couple of benefits. Number one, it allows you to put more weight on there. Even though these weight posts are a little short, and I mentioned at the beginning, there's a couple things I wish was different about this. One of them is I do wish these weight posts were a little bit wider. If you're gonna max out on a plate loaded, you're not gonna be able to do it with bumper plates. You can maybe fit a couple of 45-pound bumper plates on each side, and I would like to see it wider for those of us who have bumper plates. But if you're gonna be using this and you wanna really load it up with plates, you're gonna need something thin, either a grip plate or like a weighted out thin plates, and then you could put quite a bit of weight on here. But the nice thing is it loads sideways, so you do get more space to load plates than a single horn which faces up, which I like a lot. The next thing that I'll point out is as you do the movement, something that's really important for a leg developer is that the pivot point for the unit is right by your knee. And the reason that's important is if it's not right by your knee or not right where your knee rotates, what happens is as you go up, these pads will roll up your leg. As you can see on this one, they don't move. They stay exactly where I put them. So that's kind of nice. Now, as I'm up, I'm 6'6", as I have to say in every video. I'm actually legally obligated to tell you guys that, but this doesn't go down any further. So one change that I would make if I was making this, I would probably add one more notch to move this further down. But for most normal sized humans, 6'4" or even 6'5" or shorter, this would be fine. And I could use this just fine. It's just, like I said, it's kind of a preference thing. But other than that, very, very comfortable to use. The quality of materials, and you're gonna see this repeated through all of these accessories. The quality of workmanship and quality of materials on this is way better than anything you'll find on the Iron Master attachments, the Bells of Steel attachments, any of those kind of level of attachments. This is a serious step up. This is as nice as the rep piece. This is as nice, maybe not as nice as the dialed motion. The dialed motion is gonna be nicer. It's also gonna be a lot more expensive. But as far as just build quality, solidity, how firm it feels, the quality of the pads, the quality of the vinyl, the quality of the metal, the quality of the pop pins. For example, I'll give you a cool example of something they do. There's these little oval slots here so that as you move these leg holders, I actually can't accidentally pull it out. It's capped where you can do it, so a lot of less expensive pieces, those would just pull all the way out. Another nice thing is you can add, there's another attachment for cable pull. So the cable is actually stored on here. Something I really like, another detail, is they put a way to store the cable on here if you're gonna do this cable attached so that it's not just flopping around. Even my ATX at home, that cable just kind of flops around when you're not using it. With this one, there's a place to wind it up, a couple of hooks for the different ends of it so that it just stores right on the unit, which is nice. Also, this will include 2 caps. So if you're not gonna do plate loaded at all, what you can do is take those plates off, those plate horns off, and then put the caps on and free up that area there. So overall, great solution for the leg developer. The last point I'll make is this one does not have a cam. So when you're looking at the Rep Fitness leg developer or the dialed motion, that has a cam. So the way that they address it on this is there's no cam on this, so the pull point for the cable is right here. And what that means is that it's heavier at the bottom than it is at the top. It's not a super noticeable difference, but when I hooked it up to the cable machine over here, I did notice that it was a little bit easier at the top. The way that you fix that is you leave the plate horns on and you put some weight on that, because what happens is the weights on the weight horns is lighter at the bottom and heavier at the top. And what I found is when I combine those two together, that I got a really good consistent resistance curve all the way up. And the nice benefit of that is whenever you put a cam on these things, you're just making them just that much bigger. The last thing I'll point out is this is going to be the biggest accessory for any of your bench attached ecosystems. This one is no different. This is pretty large. You're going to have to find someplace in your garage to park this. I don't know if there's a way to hang this on the wall or anything like that. It just kind of wheels around and then sets up on its own. So you will have to find a place to store this. Very similar to the Freak Athlete, very similar to the Rep Fitness one. But the dialed motion piece, which will also fit on this. So if you want to get this bench and then instead of this leg developer, you get the dialed motion will actually work on this. They'll probably sell an adapter for this particular bench, but I know that they've committed to making sure their leg developer works for everything. So that's the leg developer. I wanted to spend a little bit more time on this than some of the other accessories, but man, this thing is good. This is solid. So if you're buying a bench knowing, hey, I know for sure I'm going to get the leg developer, you can get this one with confidence. This works really well. Next up is something pretty basic, but something that you kind of have to have if you're going to have attachments for your bench. And this is a leg holder. Now this has a couple of features that most leg holders don't have. So one of the things that you'll notice about a lot of these attachments that I'm going to show you is they do more than just one thing, and this is no different. So one little detail I want to show you is if I come up here and look, on the end of any tube that goes inside of the accessory port, there's this beveled plastic cap that's inside, and it makes it really easy to put these in. A lot of times when you have benches like this, they're just open metal and it's harder to put them in. So this is a really nice option for that. So when you put these in, it's really easy to just find the right spot and seat it in like that. So that's pretty cool. So this is set up for your decline ab work or your ab work where you can loop your legs over. As with most of them, there's a handle here in the middle. This is a knurled handle. I mentioned this in the bench review video. This is good knurl. It's adequate. It'll give you grip. It's not the best knurl in the world, so you're going to see the knurl on some of the Rep Fitness stuff is a little bit higher quality than this, but this will definitely get the job done. This is going to move forward and back, so I can move this up and down to fit me perfectly. This will also work on this bench at any angle. You'll see in the B-roll that I'm overlaying here that you can put this bench pretty high, so you can almost do darn close to vertical ab work if you can get into this thing. Another nice thing is that you can take this out and flip it over, and then they put handles up here, and what these handles are for is to reach back behind your head. So if you want to use the bench to do leg raises, you can do that. And one of the nice things about this bench is this bottom portion of the seat will decline a little bit. So that gets out of your way for your head if you're doing declined ab work. It also gets out of the way for your feet if you're doing leg raises. So again, pretty basic attachment, something that's kind of table stakes, like I said, for an adjustable bench ecosystem, but they did a really nice job on this. And again, because you can flip it around, it's got the extra handles. It does a couple of things that some of your basic leg roller attachments just don't do. This next one's called the striker pad, and I like this solution a lot because it does a bunch of things, but it also addresses one of the things that I know people will ask about this bench. So this particular bench, as I mentioned in the review, has a solid back pad. And when you look at benches like the ABX by Freak Athlete, or you look at the Prime Shorty bench, or the Infinity bench by Exponent Edge, one of the kind of newer things in benches is to have a back that kind of breaks in half and folds back to get out of the way. And what that does is it gives you a couple of things that you can do that you can't normally do on a bench. So what the Tib Bar Guy has decided to do is they decided to leave a full solid back pad because there's a lot of advantages to that. One of the things that I always look at when I'm looking at benches, especially with ecosystems, is it a great bench to start with? And in my opinion, for my personal training preferences, I like the solid back pad more than I like the one that breaks in half. And if you can have an accessory like this, which allows you to have the benefits of that kind of folding back pad without having to have it, I think that's the best of both worlds, and that's what the striker pad is for. So let me show you what this does, and it actually does a couple of things better than the flip over back pad. So first is the benefit of that folding back pad is, number one, you can put your bench up and you don't have a bench up here, so that if you want to do overhead presses with dumbbells, it doesn't get in the way of your shoulders. If you want to do overhead tricep presses or something like that, you don't have the back of your bench get in the way like you would on a normal adjustable bench. So that's kind of a cool thing for this. But the nice thing for this particular piece is that I can now take this, and oh, by the way, it's adjustable in height, so it's nice that you can actually adjust it, whereas with like the Shorty bench or with the ABX, that break point where that seat folds is fixed, whereas with this one, you can actually get it to go up and down to fit different people's bodies a little bit better. The next thing you can do is turn this thing around. So by turning it around and seating it in this way, this is now going to be a single arm preacher curl pad. With those benches where the back breaks down, what you end up having to do is you end up having to kind of stand and crouch next to it and lean your arm on it and do your preacher curls that way. What I like about this one is this allows you to sit on the bench, have a much more stable position. I can raise or lower it based on my body type, and then I can be in one spot and just do my single arm preacher curls. They do have a double arm one, which I'll show you soon, but for this one, it allows you to do this, which is really, really nice. I like this a lot. The next thing that this does, and I really like this, is if I put it all the way up, this gives me a nice stable platform to row from, but check this out. So normally on those flip over benches or those folding benches, you could fold that back part off, put your chest up here, and then do some dumbbell rows, which is a really great thing to have. To be able to support your chest and to have that full range where you can get the dumbbells all the way down there is great. The cool thing about this one is because it sticks off the back, so typically when you have the folding one, the seat is elevated and you're actually standing over the frame of the bench. With this, I have all of this room down here, which means I have room for a barbell. So this actually works really well as a seal row pad, and I can do technically correct seal rows with a barbell, which is something you can't do in that other format of bench. So with this pad, I get the preacher curl, I get the dumbbell chest supported row, I get a barbell chest supported row, and I get the back pad, which allows me to do some tricep work. This is a really great example of what some of these accessories do, which is do a bunch of things at once. Just like all the other accessories, you've got a nice fit and finish. The pad's really well done. The grippy vinyl matches the seat. One thing I will point out on this is because the adjustment is like this pop pin isn't as secure as one you would screw in. So you do get a little bit of movement here. Once your weight's on it, it doesn't bother you, but I did want to point that out because nothing's perfect. And on this particular piece, I don't know if they could do a screw in pop pin or something like that, but especially with this type of adjustment, I'm not sure that that's possible, but that is something that you're gonna wanna notice, is that it does move just a little bit, but again, under load it won't. Being that I just showed you the single arm preacher pad, it makes sense to show you this guy next. This is their Matrix 4-in-1, I believe it's called. This actually is probably one of my favorite attachments for this bench, and it's something that you haven't seen on any other benches. So this big old contraption actually comes apart in 2 parts and does a bunch of different things. So let me break it apart in 2, and we'll start with the preacher curls. So coming in here and setting up the Matrix as your preacher curl pad is fairly easy. You basically pop it in the top accessory port, which is in the back of the D unit. You are going to want to tighten these down. One thing I have noticed is as I'm putting these on, it's nice that they're nice and stable. However, you do have to remember to tighten all the pop pins down. Once it's here, I've got 2 adjustments I can make to make sure that it fits my body. One of the things I've really liked about these accessories and these attachments is that I haven't found a single one that doesn't work for me. As I am required, as I mentioned, to tell you in every video, I'm 6'6", and a lot of times gym equipment just doesn't fit me. That hasn't been the case with this stuff, and this is no exception. Not only can you adjust the angle of the preacher pad, which I really like a lot because some of you will want to have it a little bit further up, some of you will want to have it a little bit further down. So it gives you some options there, but also this whole thing moves up and down. So you can really get it set to fit you well. Once it's where it is, I tighten it in. And as you can tell, this post is really securely attached. If I do all of the pop pins, there we go. Once they're all in, very securely attached. And then the only issue with any type of not being secure is, like I said, on the single arm preacher pad, because of the way this adjusts, this particular pop pin does give you a little movement on the pad itself. So just to again let you know about that, like I did on the single arm. But once it's here, it's plenty of width for me. Perfect angle for me. I can get nice and deep in here. I can get it really comfortable. It gives me a really good stretch. And then another cool accessory that comes with this is this little barbell holder right here, which is going to attach to this front post. Now, this is a pre-production model, so this particular one isn't what you're gonna get if you buy this unit. The one you get is actually gonna come out a little bit further so you can actually reach the barbell, because right now it's kind of tucked underneath and not in a good place. But the production model will be much better than that and have a little bit more room. So that will allow you to do your preacher curls. But let me show you the other things that this does. If this is the only thing it does, it would be a good attachment. But once you add this other stuff, you're gonna see just how cool this particular attachment is. Here's where we're gonna start to see one of the benefits of having multiple accessory ports on one bench. We're now gonna go from attaching this up top here to attaching this to the accessory port here in the bottom and the foot. It's gonna slide in just like the other one, and a little bit of a pop pin holds it right in place, and I tighten it down. Now, something I didn't show you about this pad is not only does it adjust up and down for different angles, but if you pull it out and turn it, it now leaves this free to rotate. And now you have a really nice adjustable height hip thrust pad. So this not only will lock in a position if you just want it fixed, it'll rotate if you want it, but it will also move up and down so that it will fit whatever height back you need. So this is probably the best hip thrust pad I've tried for a gym, especially since you can make it rotate. You just back up to it and away you go. Super comfortable, super nice, and a really cool feature of this that you can only do because there's multiple accessory ports on this bench. Now, as cool as those are, we're gonna show you one more thing. This is a long forgotten exercise. It's something that I have a lot of my clients do. It's an old school bodybuilder exercise, and it is one of the best quad exercises that you can do. But let me show you why this thing was attached to it when I first pulled it out. So what you do is you leave this like you would for hip thrust. You're gonna lock this in so that it's straight up and down. I'm then gonna take this, which is a foot plate that has nice grip tape on top of it. I'm going to slide it right onto this post right here. It's gonna lock right on there. I'm gonna take these rollers right here and I'm gonna push them forward. And let me show you how to use this for what's called a sissy squat. Once I've got it up like this, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna step in, I'm gonna tighten these rollers on my feet, and instead of squatting straight down, I'm gonna squat with my weight all the way back, which is gonna put all of the force on my quads. If you don't have a leg developer, if you don't wanna have that big old giant leg developer I showed you first, you don't have room to store it, you don't have the budget for stuff, you like the idea of a preacher pad, and you want something that works your quads, this thing does great for your quads because when you sit back, this locks your feet in and it allows you to be very safe and secure and allows you to get down. This, my friends, is a very, very difficult squat variation. Now, if you want to regress it, you can pull the bench up a little bit and use this as kind of like a box squat. So if you only want to go down a little bit and just kind of ease into it like that, or if you're really good at it, you can actually get that up out of the way and then go all the way down and practice getting some depth all the way down in that sissy squat. So I don't know of any other bench attachment that allows you to do preacher curl, the hip thrust, the sissy squat all in one. I don't know of any other attachment that allows you to do a sissy squat at all. So I like this one. If I was to buy this bench, this is for sure one of the attachments that I would buy for my gym because it fits my training really well. And honestly, I don't have a ton of room for the leg developer. So this would be a nice substitute for that. And speaking of storing that leg developer, one of the cool things about this is there's this pad on the front, and that allows you to actually put this in the corner, store it upright so that it gets out of the way, and it's a much smaller footprint than something much bigger than it would be. So another nice bonus for this guy right here. Okay, for the next attachment, we're gonna come back down low to the bottom accessory port in the back of the unit, and then we're gonna show you the Landmine. So a Landmine is a super versatile piece of equipment. There's lots of ways to get a Landmine in your gym, but if you don't have a rack to attach it to, which a lot of people don't, it's hard to find a place to attach a Landmine. So the way I see a lot of people using a bench like this is folks who don't want a rack, they don't want a barbell, they just want a bench, some dumbbells, and then some other things that allow them to get more out of those two implements. And this is a great way to do that. And it's nice that they've thought of being able to attach a Landmine. So like all the other attachments, they've got this nice beveled plastic piece so that it slots right in there really easily, goes right into the back and tightens down. So you've got your Landmine back here. A couple other things I really like about this Landmine. Number one, it works really well, and actually they've just got shims in here right now. They're gonna do something so that it moves even more freely than this, but I actually like how this feels and how it moves. They've got these cutouts in the barrel, and I think it looks kind of like the heat shield on a machine gun, which looks kind of neat. And then one of the things that I think are really important for a Landmine is you never want to buy a Landmine that's metal around the edge, because what happens is as you put your bar in, that metal will scratch the sides of the bar. Now there is no pillow in the bottom. I know a lot of you guys, including myself, like to do a barbell pillow at the bottom of your Landmine. What that is, it's a little piece of rubber that keeps the end of your barbell from hitting metal in here. AbMat sells those. I also talked to them about it. They're considering including one. Again, a lot of these are pre-production units, so they're not completely final. One of the things I don't like about Landmines is this screw. I never understood why somebody would want to put their nice barbell. We're talking about having an insert around here, which this has an insert so that you don't scratch your barbell. And then to do that and then to screw a screw into the side of your barbell doesn't make a lot of sense. The cool thing that they've done with this is this sleeve that goes in the front, this plastic sleeve, protrudes beyond the screw so that when you tighten this down, it's not actually screwing the screw into the end of your barbell, it's just tightening the plastic here on the end. So I like that a lot. That way it keeps your barbell from getting damaged. I think that's a cool idea and something I hope they keep on the production model because that's a really nice feature. But overall, if you don't have a place to mount a Landmine and you're getting this bench weighs 105 pounds. One of the nice things about the weight of this bench, which may be a drawback for some, is that when you're looking at anchoring implements like this, to have a bench with a little bit of weight to it means that you're gonna have a very secure place to mount the Landmine and anchor your barbell when you're doing Landmine work, especially if you're doing anything dynamic and explosive. So yet another cool attachment that you can put on here. I don't know that I would buy it because I already have, I think, 2 Landmines in my garage, both attached to racks. But again, if you don't have that, really cool idea for you. All right, normally I save the best for last, but I just can't wait. I want to show you my absolute favorite accessory for this bench, and it's something that I think is better than any other thing in its category, and that is this guy right here. This is a 50 caliber turret gun with a built-in grenade launcher. No, I'm just kidding. It looks like it though, isn't it? It looks kind of cool. Anyway, first of all, notice how this particular implement stores. It just sits up like that, gets out of the way, stands on its own. You can put it in a corner, no issue at all. This is a lever belt squat. And the cool thing about this lever belt squat is that it not only uses the lever that's built into it, but it uses the entire back of the bench as the lever. So let me hook this up and show you just how cool this is. Now, as far as setting this up goes, this is actually really, really easy to set up. Basically what you're gonna do is you're going to raise the weight post, you're gonna raise the handle, and I like to raise the seat back a little bit. You're then going to insert this, crank this down, lower the kickstand, and then you're gonna lower the seat into this special notch that they made in the rail. And what that notch in the rail does is it keeps the little hooks, the little pins from getting hooked on the rail as it goes up, and it allows this to go up and down freely. Come in a little bit tighter, I'm gonna show you why this is so cool. So here's why I like this so much and think it's ingenious, and I think it's better than any other lever belt squats that are out there. One of the issues with the lever belt squat, and I'm going to use the lever belt squat that's built into the ABX bench by Freak Athlete as an example. What they do is they take their leg developer, you attach your belt to the end of it, and then you use the moving leg developer. It's a cool idea. It uses something you already have. It doesn't require you to buy another piece of equipment, but the problem is the lever is very short. The shorter the lever, the tighter the arc is. So what happens on a short lever belt squat is that as you get to the bottom or the top, it pulls you forward. You're not going straight up and down. So the idea or the goal for a lever belt squat is to build them nice and long. And then that's where the mammoth belt squat by Fringeport comes in. You guys have seen me. I use that in my garage. I like it a lot. I use it all the time. And one of the benefits of that belt squat is it's one of the longest ones. When it came out, it was the longest one in the market. So it takes that very tight radius and it makes it a little bit more straight up and down. Now it still pulls you forward and back a little bit, but it's better than some of the shorter ones that are out there. Well, the nice thing about this particular piece is that this uses the entire bench. So as you look, the lever is the bench back, which is really ingenious in my mind, which gives you the longest lever of any lever belt squat by quite a bit. So a couple things about that. The reason that the Fringeport isn't longer is at some point, you basically got an entire upright you got to store in your gym, right? So you don't want to have to do that. You've got to balance storing things in the garage gym with functionality. With this, you get a much longer lever without having to worry about, as you saw, this stores in just this little tiny place. Another cool thing about this is that you have, now you guys have seen me do the review of Matt Porter's TNT Hellbox, which adds side-loaded weight horns and then a handle. This handle is a game changer. Not only does this handle move up and down so that you can do RDLs, you can do shrugs, you can do all kinds of stuff by moving this handle to different positions, but it just gives you a nice place to hold on to. Doing a lever belt squat without anything to hold on to is just not the most comfortable thing in the world, and this gives you a lot of security. Now, I will tell you that this handle moves a little bit because of how this pin is, so just be aware of that. Also, it does move up and down, so I do like that. So if you are taller like me, you can get it up a little bit higher. If you lower it down and you want it further out for RDLs, you can do that. So I really like this. It is a vertical weight post, so that does limit the amount of weight that you can put on it by a little bit. However, they do solve one of the issues with the vertical weight post in that they're going to give you what are called weight pads that go between the weights. So what that does is it spaces your weights out a little bit so you don't crunch your fingers. One of the worst things about vertical weight posts, aside from the fact that they don't store as much weight as horizontal ones, is that when you load the plates, invariably you're going to pinch your fingers between plates, and they give you those spacers to keep you from doing that. So I really like this a lot. It's going to come with a basic belt. I think the belt's pretty comfortable. I think the belt is actually more comfortable than the one that came with my Fringeport piece. So it works just fine for me, rests on my hips just fine. This is going to be probably the best lever belt squat solution that you can put in your gym, especially since it stores so small. Now, if that wasn't cool enough, I'm going to show you another attachment that they make that pairs with this that makes this even better. Now, if you watch the channel at all, you know that in my gym I have a couple of Tib Bar Guy products already. One of them is called a slant stack, and what it is it's a stack of little platforms that allow me to raise and elevate things. And it also is a slant board, which allows me to get better mobility when I'm doing squats and things like that. It helps me a lot with clients as well who have ankle mobility issues. It's one of those staples that you want in your gym, kind of regardless of the type of training you do. It's just something you're gonna find yourself using a lot. It's also something that I use, that slant stack I use for calf raises, and I use it for a couple of other things. So knowing that I use that a lot, I was really happy to see this big old guy right here. So this is another multi-use attachment for this particular bench, and it does quite a few things. So let me show you, kind of hinted at a few things it does, but it pairs really nicely with the belt squat. So the first thing it is big and heavy. The second thing it is you can see, it's got some nice grip tape on the top, and it's an angled slant board. So if you have ankle mobility issues, standing on one of these is going to allow you to squat more deeply. When you get your ankles forward, it allows you to go down really much farther than you would normally be able to do on flat ground because it doesn't require your ankles to go up. So that when you put this underneath the belt squat, it allows you to get deeper. It's also nice because if I take this little piece out, it allows me to scoot this in around the kickstand. So they're designed to work together. And this back part is rolled off really, really nicely. And it's perfect for calf raises. That's what it's designed for. And you can either hang on to this and lower this out and do calf raises while holding onto that, or you can do calf raises with the belt. Either way works, but it's a really nice tall block. It gives you a good stretch. And unlike the slant stack, which I use for calf raises, which is just a box, this rolled off back really feels good as you roll down and get a nice deep stretch in your calves. So that's really, really nice. It gives you the ability to change your mobility. It gives you the ability to work your calves. Now, if you've got knee pain, one of the cool things is the Tib Bar Guy, one of the owners of the Tib Bar Guy, used to work with the knees over toes guy. That's where a lot of their product ideas came from, is how do we give you the tools to do that type of training? That type of training is designed at really reducing knee pain, reducing joint pain and things like that. So one of the best things you can do for your knees is to strengthen your calves and also to strengthen your tibs. And this actually, that's what these little guys are, is to strengthen your tibs. So what this allows you to do, it's got these two arms with little weight plates, weight horns on it. It allows you to lock it here to get it out of the way, or to set it up for use. You put it down here. You've got this little ankle holder, or foot holder, which moves forward and back and tightens in. So again, like everything else, very adjustable. You take your weights and you put it on with a little collar. We'll take our filler plate, put it back in its spot right there. And then you can either do a single leg or both legs at the same time, and you do tib raises. And by integrating calf work and tib work into your routine, that really goes a long way towards strengthening the whole lower part of your body, which imbalances down here are sometimes what causes a lot of the knee pain. So working your tibs is one of the best things you can do for your ankle mobility and ankle strength. It's one of the best things you can do for your knee and any knee pain you might have. So they've combined these all into one. The reason I put collars on this is what you can do is leave the weight that you normally use, and when you flip it back, the weight doesn't fall off. So that way you can use it for the slant stack and for things like that without having to take weights on and off as well. So this is a really cool piece. It doesn't actually attach to the bench. It just makes the attachment in the belt squat work that much better. And there you have, between these two together, probably my favorite attachment for this bench. It's the one that I would for sure buy. I like the one with the sissy squat and the larger preacher pad for sure. That's also one that I would get. But if it was coming into my gym, this is for sure something I would have, and I would sell that belt squat. As much as I like Matt Porter and his attachments, that belt squat with the TNT Hell box would actually get sold with the lever belt squat and replaced with this, no problem. So if you're looking to get a lever belt squat in your gym, this is a great way to do it. All right, we're gonna go from my most favorite attachment to probably what's my least favorite attachment. Not that it's a bad attachment, it's just not one that I would buy for my gym, but I know that for other bench ecosystems, a lot of you guys really like having this. And as far as this type of attachment goes, this one is definitely the best one that I've seen, and that is the dip and pull-up attachment. So here is part of it. So this is gonna be for your dips and your pull-ups. For dips, you're gonna use these handles right here. One of the things that I really like about this is, for most bench ecosystems that have a dip attachment, it's just like, it's like a 1960s handlebars from a bicycle that are chromed out, really tiny with like a little rubber grip on the end. And that's not the most comfortable or the most kind of biomechanically sound way to do dips. The thing I like about something like this is much like what they call a matador horn or something like that, is that because it angles out, you can move forward or backward to change the width of your dip. And because it's a nice wide handle, you get a really good purchase here. I like the fact that there's a pad here, so it's nice because you can bring your chest down and touch this to know that you're getting full depth. And the nice thing is you just raise this to the 75-degree mark, and then this just slots right in the top. Again, I really love having those little plastic inserts I've mentioned a few times. So it really does a nice job of making it easy to get in here. I mentioned in the bench review that they make the bottom of this back line kind of flat so that you can stand on it. It doesn't have wheel covers that stick up. And this is the attachment where that comes into play. No matter where I stand back here to get up here, I can get up here no problem and not have to worry about tripping over the wheels. So I like this a lot. I just have other ways to do dips in my garage, so I don't necessarily need this. But for those of you guys who like to have a dip and a pull-up attachment, as far as the dips go, this is great. Now, for the pull-up attachment, you're basically gonna take this off One of the cool things about this is this little piece right here, this pad. Not only do I like it to touch your chest too, they didn't have to include this with it. It's a good example of kind of just making sure all of the touch points on these things is really good. But the inside is upholstered as well. So when I took this off, normally when you see stuff like this, you're gonna see just the bare foam and then the little vinyl wrap goes around the outside. So just a little touch, but it's just something that kind of shows you the detail and the thoughtfulness. Again, I think I mentioned in the bench video that they've been working on this ecosystem for 2 solid years, and it's little things like this that they really thought about. The entire pull-up bar is knurled, so it's the same knurl you'll find everywhere else, so it's definitely passable knurl. It's not passive, so it's definitely a little more on the medium to medium aggressive side. I do think that the powder coat's a little bit thick on it, and I've given these guys that feedback. They're gonna look at maybe improving the knurl a little bit on this, because again, I'm spoiled by Rut Fitness's knurl and stuff, but as far as passability and usability goes, this thing works great. Now, as you can tell, this is a little low for pull-ups right now, so let me show you how you would actually do that. What you do is, this is the riser. So this is gonna slide into the same post that those dip bars were just in. It's gonna go in right here. And then there's a little window with some numbers. This will actually change in height, which I'll show you when I install it, but this will allow you to move things up and down. So let me rearrange the camera so you can see just how high this goes, and we'll get this installed. So you're gonna keep the bench at 75 degrees. You're gonna slot this in where the dip handles were, right in the top. This slides right in like that. Secure it in. You're definitely gonna wanna screw this in so that it doesn't move around. There's a couple of tighteners on this that are gonna be important, the 2 here. And then what you're gonna do is this will raise up and down. So depending on how high you want it, actually goes pretty high. With this attachment, I think one of the reasons it's my least favorite attachment is this particular piece right here gets a little bit wonky for me. Getting it in is no problem. Taking this thing out is a little bit more precarious. So I don't have the best time doing that. It goes in, once it's in, it's fine, you tighten it down. Raising this up and down once it's in there is actually pretty easy to do. I'm gonna put this at its highest point, and then I'm gonna tighten it down there. So once it's all in and tightened, it's fine, but like I said, getting this attached to the top seemed to be like a little bit of a challenge. Now for me, at 6'6", again, I do have to bend my knees, but I can get a full hang and not worry about my knees and do my pull-ups. And you can do neutral grip pull-ups on the dip handles. You can do wide grip on these angles. You can do a little bit narrower. And then the middle is knurled too. So you got a lot of different options. That's another nice thing about this versus some of the other ones. Some of the other ones just put that same dip handle up at top and you don't have a lot of grip options, whereas this one you actually have a lot of different variations. So for those of you guys out there doing lots of calisthenics, those of you guys out there doing lots of body weight stuff, this is for sure gonna be something that you're gonna wanna add to this bench if you don't have a way to do pull-ups and dips in your gym already. So this is a nice addition for you guys. Again, well made, a few more moving parts than I'd like, but overall, probably the best solution I can think of to add this to a bench. And that brings us to the last attachment for the Apex bench ecosystem. And it wouldn't be a Tib Bar Guy product if you couldn't do Nordic curls on it, but I think this is probably one of the better Nordic curl solutions out there. Now, a lot of benches allow you to do some Nordic curl variations. You've seen some ways possibly to do it with leg holders and a rack. So there's lots of ways to do this exercise, but I think they really put a lot of thought into this because they really made their bones with what they call the Nordic back extension, which is this bench right behind me over here. And that's a product you can get that does back extensions, Nordic curls and things like that. Now, if you would have asked a lot of people a couple of years ago what the heck a Nordic curl is, nobody would have known. They possibly would have said it's an event in the Olympics. But outside of that, in the last couple of years, due to the knees over toes guy, plus companies like the Tib Bar Guy, the value of Nordic curls has really come into play in a lot of home gyms. And the reason I like the Nordic curl is it's probably one of the best ways to bulletproof your knees. One of the hardest things about getting your knees to not have pain is to get blood flow into them. The best way to get blood flow into them is dragging a sled backwards. One of the reasons I use their sled tread every day. I do backwards sled walk on that every single day, keeps my knees in tip-top shape. But by doing Nordic curls, that's another one that's really good to strengthen the connective tissue in your knees. It is also a great hamstring exercise. It's probably a better hamstring exercise for sheer strength than even a lying leg curl is. So when we're looking at that first attachment I showed you, that leg developer, where you've got the leg extension leg curl, a lot of people look at that and go, I don't have a place for that. I want the function, I want the benefit, but I don't have a place. The way that I would address that is that sissy squat that I showed you a little bit earlier, that's great for your quads. I think that's just as good, if not better, than a leg extension. And then if you add in Nordic curls with this, another small small accessory that can just tuck away in a corner, you now address your hamstring. So if you're not looking to get a leg developer, but you learn to do the sissy squats and you learn to do Nordic curls, you can get the same training effect, especially when we're talking about strength. If you're talking about hypertrophy, the leg developer is better for hypertrophy. But for general physical preparedness, for people who just want to build strength in their legs, they want to deal with their lower back pain by strengthening their hamstrings, these things are great. Now, the reason I save this for last is not only because it's one of their signature pieces, but also because it requires you to change out the seat on your bench. And I'll show you this in a second when I put it on, but I haven't wanted to change the seat around, so I saved this for last. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to take the seat that's on the bench, which is a single piece, and you're going to replace it with this, which is two pieces. So I've got the seat switched over, and you can see that it's two pieces butted up to each other. It's the exact same outer dimensions and size and shape as the original seat, and you only do this once. I have tested this out. I cannot tell which seat's on it unless I really try and just kind of roll my butt around here and try and feel for that crease. This is in an anatomically good position to not even come into play, but basically you're not going to notice that this has been changed. This is nice because this attaches to two little sliding pieces. So I'm going to undo a couple of pins here on the side, and I'm going to pull this out, and then what this will do is this is going to give me a much better place to put my knees when I do my Nordic curls. Typically on benches that have a Nordic curl attachment, you don't have a wider spot. You're stuck with the 12-inch wide bench that you put your knees on. This is going to give you something that's about shoulder width apart, that's a place for you to put your knees so that you don't have to worry about squeezing your knees together. These things are hard enough as it is. You don't want to make it even harder by having a bad starting position. So that's the first part, is you change out your seat, and then when you want to do Nordic curls, you pull them apart. But again, it's just a pop pin. You just loosen it, slide them back and forth. That's an easy switch back and forth, so that's not an issue at all. And like I said, you can't really tell that there are two pieces versus one piece. So I like this design. Let me get the Nordic curl piece put on for you and show you how that works. All right, so I've got the seat put on and spread apart like I showed you up top. Now I'm going to put the attachment on. So this is going to go on to the front. Now this is the first time out of any of the attachments that we're using the attachment on this end of the bench. And this is another time I'll make this point. The nice thing about this bench is it's got 3 accessory ports, front and back. So what that allows you to do, typically when you look at these benches that have a single accessory port, most of the accessories that are designed at this point have to sacrifice in some way because they would be better served connecting at a higher or lower or different end of the bench. With this, what it allows them to do is it allows them to build these accessories to be ideal for the right end of the bench. So for example, if this was only able to be attached at the other end of the bench, you couldn't do this part. So I really like the fact that they have thought about this and they put so many accessory ports on here so that an attachment like this can have an accessory like this to make it work a little bit better. So once I put this on, I'm going to tighten this down. Now this is one you're going to want to tighten down pretty significantly. And then you're also going to want to adjust these guys up and down to suit you. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why you may still want a Nordic bench versus something like this. So this is something that's nice to have if you're kind of already good at Nordic curls or you're experienced with them, or if you just don't have room for another Nordic bench, which is for sure a thing. If you don't have room, even though that the Freak Athlete or even their Nordic bench stores upright, those take up a lot of room. So this is going to be a solution that doesn't take up as much room. But one of the things I want to point out is a dedicated Nordic bench is going to have 2 sets of rollers that allows you to put your heel under here and your foot under here. It's one of the things that I kind of wish was different on this one. I understand why they didn't do it. Number one, it just makes it bigger and bulkier. Number two, after doing them, there's really not a difference functionally. However, in my mind, I like having my feet locked in between 2 rollers. So if you've done Nordic stuff before and you like that feeling, this may not be the right solution for you, but I gotta tell you, like I said, after doing these, I actually don't mind this at all because your knees are right here, your heels are right up here, you're pushed against this foot plate. You're pretty locked in as it is. It's just, like I said, it's just in my head, but it is in my head, so I wanna make sure and point that out to you guys that this one doesn't have the rollers that a dedicated bench would have. Now, let me show you how this sets up for Nordics and we'll go from there. So before I get on and demonstrate this, one thing I want to point out is I didn't have all the pop pins screwed on. I mentioned this before, but it bears repeating. Some of these accessories have a lot of pop pins. The good news is that once you screw them all down, it's rock solid, right? It's super solid. You don't have to worry about anything moving or rattling around, which is an issue with a lot of other benches that have attachments. The drawback is you got to tighten a lot of pop pins. I think on this one there's 1, 2, 3, there's 4, 5, 6. There's 6 pop pins that you have to crank down to get this thing set to use. So just a heads up that it is a little pop pin intensive. I have this adjusted for the right height. And then one other thing I'll show you is I mentioned that you can get a dedicated Nordic bench. Another thing that a dedicated Nordic bench is better at. Now, with this, you can do what are called regressions. So Nordic curls are pretty difficult to begin with, and not everybody can go all the way down flat. So when you have something like this, and you get locked in, if you can't go all the way down, it allows you to just go, you know, partial the way down. And you can start it way up here. So if all you've got is that, then you can do that if you can go all the way down. And the cool thing is this one will actually do decline. You can lower this all the way down and make it really hard on yourself. But what you'll notice is that the back pivots right here to do those regressions. Whereas when you have a dedicated Nordic bench, the whole thing moves. It's a minor difference, but it's a difference worth noting because having the whole thing move is the preferred way to do it. But again, if you don't have room for a Nordic bench, this is probably the next best option. So if you can live without those lower rollers, if you can live without the whole thing going, this is a great option. It gives you plenty of room for your knees, gives you plenty of adjustments to fit lots of different people. You can move this further in, further out, up and down, and you have plenty of regressions and progressions to use on it. So like a lot of the other attachments in this ecosystem, the Nordic curl attachment actually does a couple of other things. Now, to be real honest with you, I would probably buy this as the Nordic curl attachment first. I don't know that I would buy it for the next 2 things I'm going to show you, but if you do buy it for this and you happen to have a functional trainer or a rack where you're pulling off of a single post or even out of a center post, this is kind of a neat thing that you can do because a lot of you guys out there, including myself sometimes, you're doing your low rows from the ground. And it's nice to be able to do it from the bench. And it's even nicer to kind of simulate a standalone machine and have a foot plate. And that's what I've done here. I've flipped the Nordic curl attachment over so that the feet roller are down out of the way. And then I have access to this foot plate, which allows me to sit on the bench, raise the trolley up on the trainer, go ahead and put my feet up here, and then now I actually have the ability to do rows sitting up on the bench, but also with my feet straight out and against a nice footrest where I've got the grip tape on there, and it gives me a much better purchase. So this is a much more comfortable way to row. I really like this particular function of it so that you can actually get some more out of your rack. Again, I don't know that I would buy it specifically for that, but it is a nice side benefit. And speaking of using your functional trainer, let me show you what this does for pull downs. For this next function, what I've done is I've flipped the attachment back over. Now what you'll notice is that these rollers here, they're gonna move up and down more than you would need them to for the Nordic curl. And the reason they do this is by taking these and then getting them up, they allow me to scoot forward under a lat pull down and actually use these as a leg holder. So this is kind of a cool little function where you can get it right there where I'm nice and locked in. Now, this is an Alibaba rack, and it is the world's lowest lat pull down, but hopefully this will give you an idea where I can get underneath here and then do my pull downs here, or you can scoot them. If you've got a center point pull down, you can put them under the middle. Now, the one caveat with this is that if you're pulling down more than your body weight, you're actually going to lift the bench up. So what you can do is just take a couple of plates and put it on the bench to weight it down. But I like this idea more than what I do at home on my Aries. What I do is I take a barbell and I put it on the J-hooks and then I put a pad around it. But it doesn't really allow me to kind of get it locked down, whereas this allows me to get it locked down on my legs. So this is something that I would absolutely use at home. So this is a nice addition. So this not only does your Nordic curls, but it'll allow you to do your low row and your lat pull down and give you kind of a seat to anchor you down. So that's kind of a nice function of this in addition to the Nordic curl. And just one more example of these things doing more than just one trick pony type stuff. So there you go, guys. There is the bench ecosystem for the Apex adjustable bench and all 10 of his accessories from the Tib Bar Guy. And I want to wrap up this video a little bit differently. So as I've been here in Cincinnati at the headquarters for the Tib Bar Guy, one of the things I've learned is that the owners of this company are 110% focused on this project. This is their baby. They've spent all of their waking hours on this for the last 2 years. They've built a good company with the products that they have. As I've mentioned, I've used some of their products in my gym on a regular basis, and I like them. But this is really a whole different level. This is them taking their company and saying, hey, we want to play with the big boys. So as I've looked at the bench, on the other video I recorded as I've looked at these accessories. I really want to know what you guys think, but more importantly, the guys here at the Tib Bar Guy want to know what you guys think. Which of these accessories do you think are something you would want for your gym? Which are ones that you're excited about? Which ones do you think you're not excited about? If there's a stinker, they really want to know. I can't tell you, like, every hour or so they've come back and go, what do you think? Any suggestions? What don't you like? Make sure and tell us. Don't hold anything back. It's a really good sign for a company when they want to know that stuff. I've been working with other companies who they don't really care. They're like, okay, we've got it nailed down, just do the review and that's all we need. And that's fine. But whenever I deal with companies who are anxious for feedback like this, it's always a good sign. I think these guys have put a ton of thought in these accessories. I really like most of them. I kind of shared what I like and don't like about everything that I showed you here in the video, so I don't need to rehash that here. But on the whole, I think for a bench ecosystem, this is a really, really good start for this company and a really good offering to just come out. First of all, kudos to them for coming out with the bench and all the attachments first. And as much as I like Rep Fitness, to come out with benches with ports on them and not come out with anything for those ports for years, not necessarily the best move, right? I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for stuff for your Rep bench, but kudos to them for introducing the whole ecosystem at once. But like I said, let me know what you think. If you haven't watched the bench video, go back and watch the bench video and let me know what you think about that. And thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you guys watching these long reviews. I know I get feedback sometimes that I just talk too much, like I am right now, but that's how I do things here at GymCrafter. Hopefully that's what you guys like. Those of you who have liked and subscribed, and if you haven't liked and subscribed, what are you waiting for? Get down there and do that. But until the next review or assembly video or podcast or whatever crazy thing I decide to put out and you guys decide to watch, I'm Tim with GymCrafter.